My next guests have over 70 combined years experience in theatre, having worked on shows like The Drowsy Chaperone, The Wedding Singer, Peter Pan, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, and A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, before coming together to collaborate on the Broadway musical version of the much-loved story Little Women. Welcome to Showtime, Anna and Alan.
Good morning.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
An absolute pleasure. Alan, you've worked as a director, as a choreographer, as a production manager, as a sound designer, and so many more disciplines in theatre. How did you get started in live theatre?
It's a family tradition, Andrew. My mother and father were both theatrical people. My father performed and directed, and my mother was quite a good opera singer. So I grew up with it. And have been on the stage since I was about 6 years old. So it goes back a long time.
What was the first show that you saw, Alan?
First musical I ever saw was Showboat.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
Wow.
in the Leeds Grand Opera House in Yorkshire.
Wow, incredible. And Anna, I'm a bit intrigued by you too, because and we'll talk later about Jo March and Little Women, but you're also at Monash Uni studying international business and international relations and minoring in human rights. Well, that's a little bit different to musical theatre.
A little bit. I am very lucky for having community theatre in my life. It breaks up the rest of it. I mean, I'm very lucky to be studying what I'm studying. I find it very interesting, but it is also very dire at points. So it's really nice to take a break from that, put it all behind. When I go and rehearse every other night, I can just see my friends and escape for a little bit.
And you started in theatre at quite a young age too, didn't you, Anna?
I did. So like Ellen, I got it from my parents. I got the musicality from my dad's side and the acting stage presence part from my mum, I think. She did speech and drama from a very young age, and so I took suit after her. And I was doing Eisteddfods from the age of 6 up until I was 15, 16 when I graduated with my grade 8 certificate for speech and drama from Trinity College. But she, what's the polite way to put it, is not so musically inclined. Tone deaf is the other way to put it, but I'm very lucky for my dad's parents, because they're always around the piano, always having to sing along. So I think from the both of those, I became the theatre person that I am.
And Anna, is there any connection in your life between what you're studying in international relations and musical theatre, or is musical theatre for you that creative output, that sort of escapism from everything else that you're doing?
That's a really interesting question. To be honest, I haven't thought about it that much, only because in my mind they're two very separate things, so that if for some reason I need to leave behind one of them just for a little bit to have a break, I can go to the other one. So I'm very grateful that they're very different, and I have, a very varied life between what I study versus what I do in my spare time.
Alan, I started counting the shows that you've been involved with, and I stopped at 50 because the list kept going. That's a huge body of work that you've been involved with. How do you select your next project?
It's a bit, quite often I'm asked to do a particular show, and at other times I'm also on a board of selection for one theatre company. And so it's a mixture of ask, create, or whatever comes up. And I'm not averse to trying anything new. So when Little Women raised its head, I thought, yes, this is a good vehicle for what we need to produce in the theatres that we're going to do it in.
And what is it about Little Women, Alan, that really resonated with you?
Well, it's the nature of the story. It's a famous book. It's been made into a film. It's been made into a television series. It's been made into a stage play without music, and it's been made into a musical. And in selecting that, when I suggested it both to the Malvern Theatre and the Lillydale Athenaeum Theatre, it was felt that it would be a show that would resonate with those particular audiences. And considering we're going to do nearly 30 performances of it across the 2 seasons, we're quite confident it will draw a big audience as well too. So that's part of the reason. It's a sort of financial venture in a sense of drawing audience to make sure the theatre companies continue to be viable, and to make sure that it is a story that also entertains as well too.
It's the ultimate, I mean, yeah, it feels weird saying this about Little Women, but it is the ultimate multimedia experience. It's a book, it's a play, it's a movie, it's a mini-series, it's a telemovie, I think.
Yeah.
And of course, well, it's 2 movies, no, 3 movies, I think.
It has. I've stopped counting how many new adaptations
and of course,
it has.
it was a very successful musical as well, with Sutton Foster in the iconic role of Jo March, which is the role that you're going to be portraying. No pressure. What do you think audiences can expect from this musical theatre version of this very familiar and much loved story?
Well, I think, like any of the versions that have been put out, like, there's a reason it's been done so many times. People really resonate with the story because it's, your everyday person, even though it was American Revolution times, but the themes of hope and perseverance and following of one's dreams, those are themes that will stand the test of time. Like, young women and what they go through growing up, I think, is relatable to every woman, or like every person in some way or another. But this musical version, I think it really brings to life the joy of these young women growing up together, and the bonds of sisterhood that are so integral to the show. And themes of love in the familial sense, in the romantic sense, our chosen family. I think that beautiful, beautiful music that was written for this show, it is such a joy to perform it. And I think that really comes across in the way that we do perform it, or I'd like to think so. It's just been so well adapted, and I feel like it was always bound to be a musical at some point, because it suits so well.
And Alan, in addition to what Anna said, there's also obviously themes of loss and grief and self-discovery and also external validation. Do you think that's part of what keeps this a very relatable story to a modern audience?
Indeed, yeah. It follows the full gamut of life. It's got hope, it's got tragedy, and in all those as it's got love, blossoming love, forsaken love, love in the end, and of course the tragic death of one of the sisters, Beth. So it covers a full range of emotions, and that's what makes it so appealing.
Of course, and Anna, what's it like being in that iconic role of Jo March? This is a 2-part question. What's it like being in the iconic role of Jo March? Mm-hmm. And what's it like having, I guess, both the privilege and the responsibility of singing Astonishing? There you go. That sigh, I reckon, was the perfect answer.
Right? Look, I barely have the words to describe how grateful I am for this opportunity. Jo is such a trailblazer of a character, and I feel like I've learned so much about myself just from playing her, and it's given me a new sense of like hope and passion and just a joy for life. In saying that, this is one of the hardest things I've ever done. I am so lucky to have the production team and the cast that I have. They have supported me through every step and made me the best version of myself and the best version of Jo that I could be. But I will say it took me a second to get into, like, to find the sweet spot for Astonishing. We've got there now. I love that song so much. It is a marathon of a song, but there's no other song in musical theatre like it, really. It has such a beautiful arc, even just within the song itself, which you very rarely get. But it is so well orchestrated. It has such a beautiful story, and it's so well written. I feel like I barely need to do anything in terms of the acting. I just say the words and it comes out and it's there. It's so really, I'm very, very lucky that I don't need to do that much work because it's all there for me.
I mean,
you know?
you say that, but
Yep, she does it beautifully as well.
I imagine she does, Ellen. And what I was about to point out to Anna is that is absolutely the attitude of a gifted performer. It comes out so easily. It's about the words. It's not. And it's not luck. It's probably the fact that you started at the age of 4 and you've been working bloody hard ever since.
Sure. that too. I mean, it did take, lots of fine tuning in the singing, to make sure that I was happy with it and that it was sitting at a comfortable point. But, it just required a lot of patience and perseverance. And now that we've got there, I say that it's easy, but it was probably a lot harder. I look back at it with rose-tinted glasses. I say that as if I'm not still working on it. But just now that we've got to a point where I'm so happy with it, I'm like, it was easy the whole time.
Yeah. Alan, I mean, you've got an incredibly talented cast that you're working with on this show. What must be such a rewarding experience to be able to bring such an iconic work to life with such a talented group of human beings.
It is, and we're fortunate too that everyone is ideally suited to the part. I mean, I'm just, the younger girls are all in what I view when I cast it, they're all the right age, the right physical size, because you need to distinguish between the ages of the sisters, and so on, and we do that very cleverly, I think, with the people we have. And then when you get to Marmy's an integral part of the whole thing. And our Marmy, Megan Coe, is just sort of has such warmth, delight on the stage. And then you get to the iconic Aunt March. And I think we've got one of the best actors in Melbourne, in Julie Arnold, playing Aunt March. And she gives her the real bite and twist that Aunt March needs. So I'm delighted with the ladies. And then the gentleman, John Minnis, sings delightfully as John Brooke. Elliot Schutt is live and loud and sings up a storm as Worry. And then I have Reg Ellery playing Mr. Lawrence, and he's the right age and roughness and sings. It's actually, when I first met Reg, he's an operatic bass baritone. So the couple of lines he does sing, it sounds just right. And then, of course, our musical director, Adam Bianco, is just delightful opposite Anna when he plays Professor Bhaer, and they do the Umbrella song at the end together. Just tugs at the heartstrings.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It's a beautiful musical. Little Women, the musical, is a joint production between Malvern Theatre Company and Lillydale Athenaeum Theatre. It'll be on in Malvern from the 23rd of August until the 7th of September, and then Lillydale from the 14th to the 30th of November. And tickets for the show are available at malverntheatre.com.au and lillydaletc.com. Thank you so much, Anna and Alan, for joining me today, and all the very best for the 2 seasons of Little Women the Musical.
Thank you
very much for having us.
Yes, pleasure.